There once was a time where superhero movies were not popular. And now that they are popular, we got a couple of people wanting to, complain about them. Hey everybody, this is David, and I want to talk about something a little bit different. I want to talk about some of this, there's been a couple of interviews recently where some big name celebrities have been not really trash talking. Well, one of them was maybe a little bit trash talking. They kind of like putting down the superhero genre, and I wanted to come to the genre's defense. If you want to consider it a genre, that is. For some, I consider it like part of the action drama, but some people consider superhero movies their own genre. Maybe I do too, a little bit. But yeah, I wanted to talk about some of these little interviews that have popped up recently and kind of put my 2 cents on it. So if you don't know, Steven Spielberg has come out and talked about superhero movies, his thoughts on it, that one day they'll be, winding down a little bit. And the next day I read an interview with Emma Thompson, who some of you might remember from Saving Mr. Banks, which was a really good movie. If you haven't seen that movie, check it out. It's with Tom Hanks playing Walt Disney, and Emma Thompson is playing the creator of Mary Poppins. It's a really nice movie. You also might remember her from the Harry Potter franchise. She was that like very nerdy teacher and all that. And her interview is really what got me wanting to do this video, because it kind of set me back a little bit because of something she said, which I'm going to read a quote right now. So basically, this is from The Vulture, and in the interview she said, "Thompson has nothing against superhero movies in theory. I love the original Superman with Chris Reeves," she said, "because there was a real tongue-in-cheekness to it. But their increasing prevalence is a whole other matter. After a while, you do get a tiny bit cynical about it," she said. "The fact that I know they're going to win out in the end has now slightly interfered with my continuing going to those movies. If I see yet another Spider-Man, I'm going to have to actually hang myself. I can't do it anymore. They're all marvelous, but how many times can you make this franchise, for crying out loud?" Now, I get what she's saying. There's so many of them. There's so we had our 5th Spider-Man movie, right? And the 6th one is on the way. I guess she doesn't know that they're going to be rebooting it. She was also kind of talking about reboots in some way, like they keep rebooting them. And I believe she also mentioned that in the same interview. That is kind of true. I get it. Like, how many times can you reboot a franchise? But there are tons of stories to tell from the comics of those characters, and I see nothing problem with it continuing as long as they tell new stories and not the same old stories that they've already told. That's why I like Marvel's approach at James Bonding the whole thing, right? That's what Kevin Feige has said. He doesn't like the idea of reboots either, and he would rather James Bond it, and that's something that also gets, like, all these people are complaining about, oh, too many Batman movies, too many superhero movies. We are getting our 24th James Bond movie. So what is the difference if we have, 23 Spider-Man movies or 23 Batman movies? Is that really a big of a deal? As long as they keep telling new stories, though, I'll agree to that. I hate, everyone didn't want Spider-Man to reboot in the first place. Everybody would rather have it like sort of continue. I like the way Kevin Feige is going to handle it. They're going to do an all-new Spider-Man story, but without doing the origin again. And that's what I think a lot of people really want when they're saying they're getting tired of superhero movies. They don't want to see the same story again. They want to see something, a new story, And having Spider-Man being integrated into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think that's going to help a lot. And, Kevin Feige right now is a genius doing what he's doing over at Marvel Studios. So adding Spider-Man into the mix should be very interesting. Another thing that really kind of bothered me about this interview is that she said, oh, I know how it's all going to end, And, well, okay, superhero movie, yeah, they saved the day at the end. But then again, you can also look at the Star Wars films or an Indiana Jones film or the Harry Potter films. And at the end of the day, all those heroes win at the end. So I don't see why superhero movies are getting attacked for that when, you know, that's an action movie in general. That's an action hero, good versus evil type of story to begin with. That is the resolution at the end, is that the hero has to save the day. I mean, there have been movies where the hero hasn't saved the day. We can look at The Dark Knight, where, you know, technically the Joker won in that film, you know? Maybe that's why The Dark Knight is considered one of the greatest superhero films of all time. Spider-Man 3, if you want to go back on Spider-Man 3, technically Spider-Man didn't really win that one. Yeah, I mean, like, Sandman came to terms and everything in a so convenient way. But that aside, I mean, Harry died. Spider-Man's best friend, Harry Osborn, died in that film. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Spider-Man 3 by now. That, you know, and a whole bunch of people died in X-Men The Last Stand, even though they were brought back recently in X-Men Days of Future Past. So, I mean, like, yeah, people, you know, once in a while will get a superhero movie where someone dies drastically. Actually, the recent Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, spoiler alert once again, Emma Stone, Gwen Stacy dies in that one. So technically, did Spider-Man win in that movie? I don't think so. But you know what? She has her own opinion. That's fine. That's cool. And now I wanted to talk about a little bit about the Steven Spielberg quote. So here's what he said. "We were around when the Western died, and there will be a time when the superhero movie goes the way of the Western," said Spielberg. "It doesn't mean there won't be another occasion where the Western comes back and the superhero movie someday returns. Of course, right now, the superhero movie is alive and thriving. I'm only saying that these cycles have a finite time in pulp culture. There will come a day when mythological stories are supplanted by some other genre, and possibly some young filmmaker is just thinking about discovering for all of us." So what Spielberg was saying was that, you know, one day all these superhero movies will go the way of the Western. You know, one day they'll start dying down a little bit. You'll see maybe one or two here and there once in a while, but they won't, you know. And personally, okay, he was less harsher, I think, on it, and he sort of speaks the truth. You know, one day I'm not going to expect to see like 6 superhero movies a day, even though I wouldn't be surprised if we do for the next 20 years or so. Because let's think about this. Animated movies, we get like 60, not 60, about maybe roughly 6 to 10 animated movies a year. So what is the difference with a whole bunch of animated films and a whole bunch of superhero films? Especially if people are considering the superhero genre their own genre, right? What's the difference there? And then you can also say comedies. We get like 6 to 10 comedies a year, maybe even a little bit more. So we get like a whole bunch of, you know, there's so many other genres that get a couple of films each year. What is the difference with the superhero genre finally expanding? Because it has taken up its own genre and there is a big audience out there for it. And I get that Spielberg, you know, he thinks, oh yeah, but Westerns, you know, Westerns is something like zombie movies. Let's take zombie movies as an example with Westerns. Because those are something that are contained in their own little world, you know. There's only so much you can do with a Western. And I think Jon Favreau tried experimenting something different with it, with Cowboys versus Aliens. I think that was a cool idea for a movie. I went to go see that movie in theaters because I was, you know, interested that, hey, this is a Western that's a little bit different, because I'm going to admit, I find Westerns a little bit boring. Maybe the genre isn't that interesting to me anymore, but a lot of the movies that, you know, do well are movies that kind of maybe relate to the times a little bit. And superhero movies can be placed anywhere. I mean, they can be fit in any subgenre. For an example, you know, you look at Captain America, the First Avenger. It's a movie that takes place during World War II. So essentially, it's kind of like a World War II film with a superhero in it. A lot of people will say The Dark Knight with Christian Bale and Heath Ledger, that is really a crime drama film. You look at Man of Steel and The Avengers, it's kind of an alien invasion sci-fi movie, you know? Even Captain America, The Winter Soldier, was based off those political spy thrillers from the 70s, such as, you know, The French Connection and such. So, I mean, yeah, okay, sometimes you'll get your typical superhero movie, but sometimes you'll get a superhero movie that kind of, you know, tries to shake things up. Even Guardians of the Galaxy, that to me did not feel like a superhero movie at all. That felt like something like Star Wars. It was going to be the next Star Wars film or the next Star Trek film. So, I mean, like, that's the cool thing about these superhero movies. They don't have to be the same type of film. They do shake things up if you are paying attention to what they are. Hell, even Blade was like a thriller horror-ish type of superhero film. The Punisher, that, would you even think The Punisher is a superhero movie? But it's based off that character from the comic. Punisher started off as a Spider-Man character. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, once in a while we are going to get a disaster film like Fantastic Four or Green Lantern. Green Lantern could have been so much more. But, yeah, once in a while we're going to have a really cool one that's a little bit more creative than your typical superhero movie, like Ant-Man or Captain America, The Winter Soldier, or The Dark Knight, or The Avengers. So I think superhero movies have a little bit more of an edge than Westerns do. And so I kind of disagree with Spielberg on that. And as long as we keep getting good ones that try to shake things up a little bit more, like the ones I mentioned, I think superhero movies... I think Spielberg's wrong. I think we're going to have at least another 10, 15, 20 more years on superhero movies. I could be wrong, and who knows, maybe next year is when superhero movies finally die. Maybe the year where we're getting like 6 or 7 superhero movies, maybe that's the year where people are like, you know what, I had enough. But, you know what, I'm going to enjoy the ride while it lasts, because I love superhero movies, and I'm one of the people that keep going to see these movies, because even the ones that are bad, I just saw Fantastic Four in theaters, and I didn't go see it again. But, you know, I'm looking forward still to the next superhero movie that's going to please me, which is, in this case, Batman v Superman. So... guys, I don't know. What do you think? Do you agree with Spielberg and Emma Thompson on these superhero movies? Do you think they're going to fade away anytime soon? Do you think Emma Thompson should, like, shut up? I love her. Don't get me wrong. I think she's a talented actress, very creative, very smart. She's, like, leagues. She's in a place where I wish I could be. Let's just put it that way. So... comment below and let me know, guys. I want to know what you guys think about all these superhero haters. All of a sudden, these celebrities hating on superhero movies. Spielberg's not really hating on them, but you get what I'm saying. So, until next time, take care.